All right, guys, we're going to break down the next Flow grappling card. I'm here in my new Leone kit, First Nations people of Australia inspired. And I'm actually filming this over in Bali at the Leone camp with Joseph Chen. But we're going to break down this card, so I've decided to take the morning off training as an excuse just to film this video. But obviously, we're going to start with B-Team's own Nicky Ryan. Nicky Ryan is facing JT Torres. JT Torres is a legend of the game. He's a, I believe, three-time ADCC champion. So he's basically accomplished all there is to accomplish in this sport, especially in no-gi. I've seen him from back in the day. I remember I've seen him go to war with my old coach, the guy that gave me my black belt, Lachlan Giles, many, many times. Unfortunately, Giles lost every one of them, but JT is a legend. He's facing Nicky Ryan. Nicky Ryan is obviously Gordon Ryan's brother. He's sort of considered a prodigy in the sport. He's had a few setbacks in terms of injuries. The man's made of glass, but these guys are facing off. I think it's a really great match, especially before ADCC. They're both in ADCC, both in the same weight division. JT Torres, I would imagine this might be his last ADCC event. So he's looking for a nice match to get himself ready for the tournament, and he thinks Nicky Ryan is that match. I imagine, logically, from his point of view, he sees Nicky Ryan as an incredibly talented, tough kid, but if he can put the pressure on him, he probably thinks he can break him, because Nicky Ryan has had cardio and injury issues in the past. I can freely admit he has cardio issues because I do too. After about 5 to 10 minutes, he can get gassed. This is what happened when Nicky was at ADCC last against Canuto. He came out, dominated early, and then Canuto was able to pick up the pace. Again, Nicky Ryan did have an ACL injury, but there were some cardio issues there too. So if I'm looking at this from JT Torres' perspective, he probably envisions that if he can weather the storm early, he's going to be able to take Nicky Ryan into deep water and beat him. However, I think Nicky Ryan has never reached his full potential. One of those guys in the gym that's almost unbeatable. Even for me personally, he's a lot smaller than me. One of my toughest rounds, one of the guys that submits me the most in training. And I think if all the stars align, not only could he beat JT Torres, but he could be ADCC champion. He has an incredible wrestling ability. His leg locking ability is amazing as well. And he has that guard passing ability. So he's gifted in all three of those areas. And all of those gifts will be very necessary to beat a guy like JT Torres. I think as well, if he can demonstrate a convincing win over JT Torres, a guy with such a seasoned resume, and really a strategic, he's so good at strategy. If he can out-strategy JT and take this W, it's going to put him in a great position to take that gold to ADCC. I think psychologically, if he can take out JT, especially if he can finish him, I don't know who's going to beat him at the next ADCC. So we'll look at other matches as well. So Philipe, Penna, Rafael, Lavado Jr., I have just faced off against both of these guys. This is a really interesting match. These are two big guys, big names. Lavado went into MMA, was able to win the Bellator belt off Gegard Mousasi. He had some issues with his brain, and he ultimately decided to return to grappling. And he seems to be taking a lot of super fights right now. So luckily for me, I was just able to beat him in Vegas at the Fight Pass Invitational. Was able to get a leg lock pretty early, but honestly, I trained with Lavado. I went to his gym maybe 2-3 years ago, and we went to war, just the two of us in there. We did probably 5 rounds, so I really got a good feel for his game, and that gave me the confidence to pursue the leg lock in the match, but I knew he'd come sort of defensive ready. He's a smart guy. He's very rarely been submitted. I think only leg locked by Pajares. However, I do think it is a vulnerability to him just because of his age in the game. It is hard to learn the newer parts of the game the older you get, and I even feel that at 32 with some of the movements people like Joseph Chen are doing. But he's facing off against Philipe Penna. Philippe's a guy I was able to get a win over purely in EBI overtime. We had a terribly boring match at Fight Pass, but I was able to edge him out because I had more experience in the EBI overtime. So given that I've just faced off against both these guys and humbly bragged about beating them both, how do I see the match playing out? I see it predominantly being a wrestling match. I don't really see Philipe or Lavado pulling guard on the other one. I would give the edge in the wrestling probably to, I mean, it's going to be close. I think if we're going to see any takedowns, there's not going to be 2, 3, 4 takedowns. There's going to be maybe 1 takedown. So I would say that I do envision either Penna getting a takedown, or ultimately later in the match, if it's just a collar tie fest, maybe Philipe pulls and he can get a sweep going. but it's going to be a stalemate of a match. We saw Lavado face off against Kainan, and not even Kainan could really do a lot to Lavado. So it's a really interesting match. I believe the submission advantage favors Philipe Penna. Scramble advantage favors Philipe Penna, but I do think Lavado is going to come in a bit stronger with a bit of height and length on him. And if he can wear Philipe down over the course of the match, I could see that as a great path to victory. Lavado, incredibly gifted athlete. Philipe Penna's a bit younger. I imagine whoever gets the W out of this one would love to probably have a rematch with Meregali, who is in the main event. But first we'll touch on Andrew Tacker versus Tommy Langlea. So I've known both these guys for a long time. Andrew Tacker, I coached him on the Flow Grappling reality series. He did very good in that reality series. He was able to beat Daniel Manasau, Big Dan. He beat Big Dan. And there was like a 110-pound weight discrepancy. And we've just seen his game improve year over year. And he just comes to scrap. He has that youthful, endless conditioning. He was able to just win ADCC trials. So I would say going into this match, he's going in probably favored to beat Langlea. However, Langlea is one of those guys that's very hard to look past, very hard to submit. We've seen him time and time again at ADCC trials go to war. He was able to beat Matus Soshinsky, I think 3 times now. And Soshinsky is one of the scariest grapplers in the game. So Langlea is obviously not going to be intimidated by a guy like Andrew Tacker. I just hope the conditioning he has coming into this match will be able to match what Andrew Tacker brings to the table. I think technically Langlea probably has more tools. He's been in the game a lot longer. His Berimbolo games are amazing. We even saw how good his Berimbolo game was when he faced Cade Ratola the first time, obviously the reigning ADCC champ. We've seen Langlea utilize these techniques. We saw him beat Taza at Polaris. He's not to be looked past in this match, so I think he definitely has a strong chance to be able to beat Andrew Tacker. I think if Andrew Tacker is too reckless in his passing style game, he could get his back taken. I think it'll be tough to finish Andrew Tacker, but he could get his back taken. So the game's basically going to be Langlea pulling guard, Tacker trying to pass. Either Tacker's going to be effective in that, which is very difficult. We've only seen basically Joseph Chen pass Langlea consistently. So it's a real toss-up with this one, but I would probably lean slightly towards Tacker, but given his Langlea's unpassable guard, I could also see Langlea holding him off and getting a late stage sweep or back take and beating Tacker. But that's probably, in my opinion, going to be the most exciting match of the night. Those two guys are going to come hard at each other. Langlea will be pound for pound best man at the after party. I can guarantee that. Now we get to Meregali versus Vagner Hosha. This is an interesting one. Wagner's definitely at the tail end of his career, but he is able to string victories together. He beat Meregali's teammate Luke Griffiths, and this was shocking. He beat him at Karate Combat. Everyone thought this was a squash match for Luke Griffith. Luke Griffith's huge, trades with New Wave. Man, Luke is really, really tough, and he had a massive size advantage. Vagner was able to use good wrestling and sort of efficient movement to fatigue Luke, and then at the later stages of the match, take him down and take his back and win a decisive victory. Luke had one good attack early and then got fatigued. Now, Meregali obviously looks unstoppable right now. Meregali has taken out Philipe Penna. He's taken out just about all the big names. Obviously, he took out Lavado as well. He's looking unstoppable. However, that being said, he took out Kainan as well. His wrestling is effective in a jiu-jitsu sense, but I still think there are holes in the game, and that would be an indication of how I would try to exploit it. You wouldn't pull guard against a guy like Meregali. His passing game and his pressure from passing is so strong. The only opportunity you would have would be in the wrestling, and that's where Vagner does have an experience advantage. However, Vagner will have a size disadvantage, an age disadvantage, but on the feet, he does have a chance to hold off some of Meregali's takedowns. Meregali's got a great gas tank, so he's not going to gas out like Luke Griffiths did. I imagine Meregali's going to get the submission ultimately here from the back, but I hope Vagner can hold him off for a while, create some good wrestling scrambles, and give us some more insights, even for me selfishly, in seeing more of Meregali's wrestling and seeing if Vagner can find any holes in that game. However, I do think, given Wagner's age, given the size discrepancy, it is a bit of a squash match here, but it is a great card Flo's put together. I tried to do the preview for this card. It took me fucking 20 minutes to find a full list of participants in this card. Flo, you got to fix that. when I look for a top to bottom lineup, that should be easy to find. It's not on the ticket sales area. It's hard to find on Instagram. I had to look at Nicky Ryan's tag photos, but that's Flow Grappling. That's May 10. That's in Arlington, Texas. Gonna be a great card.